Sun, beaches, surfing, the perfect summer vacation. The warm sand beneath your feet, the sound of waves crashing, and the sun kissing your skin. It was the dream Gorgeous had been nurturing for months. She could almost taste the salty air and feel the tropical breeze.
Gorgeous flipped through travel magazines, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Each page was a gateway to paradise, filled with images of crystal-clear waters and lush palm trees. She had meticulously planned every detail, from the best surfing spots to the hidden gems of local cuisine. Her heart set on Hawaii. It was more than just a destination, it was a dream, a promise of adventure and unforgettable memories. She imagined herself exploring volcanic landscapes, snorkeling with vibrant marine life, and soaking in the rich culture of the islands. Her dad promised a trip, just the two of them. It was supposed to be their special time together, a chance to bond and create lasting memories. Then came the twist, a twist that would shatter her summer dreams.
Ryoko needs a place to stay, her dad announced, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Gorgeous's heart sank. Who was Ryoko, and why did she need to stay with them? Her dad's eyes twinkled with a mischievous glint, as if he was hiding a secret. He seemed almost too pleased with himself, and Gorgeous couldn't shake the feeling that something was off.
Ryoko, his new girlfriend, beamed. Gorgeous's jaw dropped. Hawaii was off. The dream vacation she had been looking forward to was slipping through her fingers. She felt a mix of shock and disappointment. How could her dad do this to her? Instead, her dad suggested a visit to her Aunt Miku in Japan. It was supposed to be a consolation, but it felt more like a punishment. Japan was beautiful, but it wasn't the tropical paradise she had envisioned. An old, rambling house in the countryside, far from the bustling cities and the excitement she craved. The house was ancient, with creaky floors and an eerie atmosphere. It was the complete opposite of the vibrant, sunny beaches of Hawaii. Alone, with Ryoko, the thought of spending her summer in an old, spooky house with her dad's new girlfriend was unbearable. She felt a sense of dread wash over her. Gorgeous knew arguing was pointless. Her dad had made up his mind, and there was no changing it. She felt a wave of frustration and helplessness. How could her perfect summer be ruined so easily?
Fine, she mumbled, already plotting ways to salvage her summer. She wasn't going to let this setback ruin everything. She would find a way to make the best of the situation, even if it meant being creative and finding her own adventures. She started thinking of all the things she could do in Japan. Maybe she could explore the local culture, visit ancient temples, or even learn a new skill. The more she thought about it, the more determined she became. This summer might not be what she had planned, but it could still be an adventure. She just had to make it happen.
If she had to be stuck in Japan, at least she wouldn't be alone. Gorgeous messaged her 6 best friends: bold Maya, tech-savvy Ben, timid Liam, artistic Chloe, sporty Alex, and adventurous Sam. Her aunt's house was ancient, full of shadows and creaking floorboards. Dust caked the furniture and a musty smell hung in the air. Still, the friends made the best of it, exploring the overgrown garden and sharing spooky stories. Aunt Miku was an enigma. She was a figure shrouded in mystery, a woman whose presence was felt more than seen. Her aura was one of secrets and untold stories, a living puzzle that no one had yet solved. Her long black hair hid her face as she shuffled around, whispering to herself. It was as if she carried the weight of the world in her whispers, each one a fragment of a story too painful to tell. The whispers were like a haunting melody, a song of sorrow that filled the air whenever she was near. She spoke little, her eyes filled with a deep sadness. Those eyes, they seemed to hold the weight of 1,000 untold tales, each one more sorrowful than the last. It was as if her very soul was trapped behind those eyes, yearning to break free but held back by invisible chains of regret and sorrow. One evening, Gorgeous found a dusty photo album. It was hidden away in the attic, buried under years of neglect and forgotten memories. The album was old, its pages yellowed with age, but it held a promise of stories long forgotten. Inside, a beautiful young woman smiled back at her, Aunt Miku. The woman in the photo was almost unrecognizable, her face radiant with joy and hope. It was a stark contrast to the somber figure Gorgeous had come to know. But there was another person in the photos, a handsome young man with haunted eyes. His eyes were filled with a deep, unspoken sorrow, a mirror to the sadness that now filled Aunt Miku's eyes. Who was he, and what had happened to him?
Who's that? Gorgeous asked, her voice filled with curiosity and a hint of fear. She held the photo up, her eyes searching for answers in the faded image. Gorgeous asked, showing the picture to her aunt. The question hung in the air, a silent plea for the truth.
Aunt Miku snatched the album away, her face a mask of terror. It was as if the very sight of the photo had unleashed a torrent of memories too painful to bear. Her hands trembled as she clutched the album to her chest, her eyes wide with fear.
"Don't ever speak of him," she hissed. Her voice was filled with a fear so palpable it sent shivers down Gorgeous's spine. The room seemed to grow colder, the shadows deeper, as if the very walls were closing in on them. Aunt Miku retreated into the shadows, her figure blending into the darkness. It was as if she was trying to escape not just the question, but the memories that it had stirred. The silence that followed was deafening, a void filled with unspoken words and untold stories. Gorgeous sat there staring at the photo album, her mind racing with questions. Who was the man in the photo? What had happened to him? And why was Aunt Miku so terrified of speaking about him? The answers seemed just out of reach, hidden behind a veil of secrets and lies. But Gorgeous was determined to uncover the truth. She knew that the answers lay somewhere in the past, buried under layers of pain and sorrow, and she was willing to dig as deep as it took to find them. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with potential dangers and heartaches, but she was ready to face it all. As she flipped through the pages of the album, more photos emerged, each one a piece of the puzzle. There were photos of Aunt Miku and the young man, their faces filled with joy and love. But there were also photos that hinted at a darker story, a tale of loss and heartbreak. And then, tucked away in the back of the album, she found a letter. It was old and worn, the ink faded with time, but it was a clue, a piece of the story that had been hidden for so long. With trembling hands, she opened the letter, her heart pounding with anticipation. The words on the page were filled with emotion, a tale of love and loss, of dreams shattered and hopes dashed. It was a letter from the young man in the photo, a final goodbye to the woman he loved. As Gorgeous read the letter, tears filled her eyes. The story was heartbreaking, but it was also a key to understanding the mystery that was Aunt Miku. With the letter in hand, Gorgeous knew what she had to do. She had to confront Aunt Miku, to demand the truth. It was the only way to put the pieces of the puzzle together, to finally understand the secrets that had haunted her family for so long. She walked towards Aunt Miku's room, her steps filled with determination. The journey ahead was uncertain, but she was ready to face it. The truth was out there, and she was determined to find it, no matter what it took.
That night, the nightmares began. Each friend woke to whispers, cold breaths on their faces, and shadowy figures darting past their doorways. They brushed it off as bad dreams, but the fear was real.
Convinced it was an elaborate prank, Ben set up cameras around the house. But the footage only deepened the mystery. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed shut, and disembodied laughter echoed through the empty halls.
The disappearances started subtly.
First it was Liam's glasses, then Chloe's sketchbook.
Then one by one the friends began to vanish.
Maya disappeared during a game of hide and seek, her laughter echoing long after she was gone.
Panic set in.
Ben, reviewing the footage, noticed a chilling detail.
A pair of ghostly hands reached out from the shadows, pulling Maya into the darkness. Gorgeous felt a cold dread grip her heart. She was alone, trapped in the house with an unknown entity and her missing friends. One night, as she stared into the antique mirror in her room, a face appeared behind her own reflection. A man's face, contorted in anger and pain, the same man from the photograph. She spun around, but no one was there.
Oh no, what is happening?
Aunt Miku, seeing the terror in Gorgeous's eyes, finally broke her silence. Her voice trembled as she began to speak, the weight of years of sorrow evident in every word.
Years ago, I fell deeply in love with a young man named Taro. We were inseparable, our hearts beating as one. Every moment we spent together felt like a dream, a beautiful escape from the harsh realities of our lives. But our families were rivals, and our love was forbidden. The feud between our families was fierce, a bitter conflict that had lasted for generations. We tried to keep our love a secret, meeting in hidden places and exchanging letters in the dead of night. But it was only a matter of time before we were discovered. Driven by despair, Taro took his own life within these walls. The pain of our separation was too much for him to bear. He felt trapped, with no way out. I remember the day I found him, lifeless and cold. It was as if the world had ended, and my heart shattered into a million pieces. His spirit, unable to find peace, remained trapped, seeking revenge on those who had kept us apart. The house became a place of sorrow and fear, haunted by his restless soul. I could feel his presence, a constant reminder of the love we had lost and the life we could never have.
Aunt Miku, her face streaked with tears, recounted the tragic story of her past love to Gorgeous. Her voice was filled with a deep sadness, a sorrow that had never truly left her. As she spoke, Gorgeous could feel the weight of the tragedy, the pain of a love lost to the cruelty of fate. The room seemed to grow colder, the air heavy with the echoes of the past. Aunt Miku's story was a haunting reminder of the power of love and the devastating consequences of hatred and rivalry. The air grew heavy, the scent of decay filling the room. Taro's ghost materialized before them, his eyes burning with rage. He blamed Aunt Miku's family for his fate and vowed to take his revenge on her remaining bloodline. Gorgeous. Gorgeous knew she had to act fast. She grabbed the photo album, finding a picture of Taro and Miku, their faces radiant with love.
I have to do something. This can't go on. Taro, look! Your love for Aunt Miku was real. Don't let anger consume you. Find peace.
The ghost hesitated, his anger flickering. He glanced at the photo, then at Aunt Miku, tears streaming down her face. Slowly, a look of peace washed over his face. With a sigh, Taro faded away, taking the shadows and the cold with him. One by one, the missing friends reappeared, shaken but unharmed. The nightmare was finally over.
It's over. We're finally safe.